G'day. This is Chris McEwen from the Australian thrash metal band Hidden Intent here. You might remember me from episode 243. Just wanted to plug our new album Dead End Destiny. If you love a bit of old school thrash such as Sacred Reich, Slayer, Megadeth, Mortal Sin, with some ochre Aussie humour thrown in for good measure, then I kindly invite you to have a listen to Dead End Destiny on your favourite streaming service, or if physical media is your thing, then you can grab a CD, a killer 7-colour album print tee, or a limited edition blood splatter vinyl at hiddenintentofficial.com/shop. Get a dog up here, over to you, Mr. Andy Dowling.
Hey, it's another episode of the Andy Social Podcast. And before we kick into the show, I should tell you all about Patreon. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling is the best way to support this podcast. And I'll tell you what, support starts from only $1 a month. Oh, who would have thought? Set and forget, you wouldn't even notice it. And if you want access to the exclusive Patreon podcast episode where I do a bit of karaoke, I tell a story, I've got a segment called Planes, Trains and Andy-mobiles. I've got some old commercials from the 90s. I go through Release Radar on Spotify each week and listen to a few tracks and share some things that I've been reading and watching and all sorts of shit. And you also want some free stuff as well, then there are additional tiers over at patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Come and check it out. It's the reason why Andy Social exists in 2021. It's the reason why I do 2 episodes a week. It's because of the Patreon community. So come and check it out. Support the scene. Hey, it's the Andy Social Podcast, episode 290. Far out. 10 episodes before the big 300. That's 5 weeks away, because I do 2 episodes a week now, so look out for that. There's a bit of pressure on me. So anyway, in the meantime, my guest on this episode is Matt Disisto. Matt is the guitarist in Shatterbrain. Shatterbrain from Adelaide, great thrash metal band, thrash, death metal, bit of everything in there. And they've got an album that came out last year called Pitchfork Justice, their debut album. They've been around for a few years now, and they're all from a bunch of previous bands from the Adelaide scene, guys that we and Lord have played with over the years, and they've all come together to form Shatterbrain. And in this chat, I didn't even get to talk about it with Matt, but he also used to play in a band called Beyond the Oblivion, and I think he still plays in the band Voros as well. I'm pretty sure they're still active. But anyway, I'll have links to everything in the show notes, of course. Go and check out their debut album, Pitchfork Justice. You can go to shatterbrainmetal.com. You can go to, I think, on all the socials, it's Shatterbrain Metal. It's shatterbrainmetal.bandcamp.com. I'll have everything, of course, in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net, and in the podcast player in the description. I'll have embedded videos. I'll have everything over there, nice and easy. So enough crapping on from me. Please enjoy this great chat with Matt Disisto. Mate, congrats on the news of your impending little one coming later this year.
Thanks very much, mate. Yeah, very stoked on that.
Is this the first?
Yes, it is. We're very happy. It came very quickly and straight away, sort of thing, of trying. So, we're really, really excited, and everything's going well so far. So, see how we go.
Oh man, it's I haven't got any kids myself, but just watching, and I'm sure you're the same. Just seeing so many mates go through this. And go through it for the first time, and just watching them change and watch them go through all these different emotions and stress and panic and all this sort of stuff. It's such a defining moment by the looks of it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, I used to have a similar thing, like you said, see other people, what they go through, and have a thought of it like, oh, it's going to completely change my life, and I'm not going to be able to do all these things that I'm enjoying doing with band and the music and everything. And it couldn't be further from that. Like, as usual, I'm just stressing about something that's not really there. Like, once it happens, it's like, wow, this is fucking amazing. And you actually start to think about it, like, oh, life's not going to change all that much. We're just gonna be a hell of a lot better, I think. But we'll find out.
Well, I guess that's the plan, isn't it? I mean, it's meant to add. I mean, it's literally adding something to your life. It's another human. You pop it, you bring another one into the world. But I mean, you must. I don't know. I mean, even in these sort of, it's still fairly early days. It's later in the year that this is all happening. But have you noticed, sort of, just since this has become a reality, and sort of knowing that this is going to happen, have you noticed just in yourself, just the way that you're sort of looking at everything in your life and sort of whether you got a new perspective on things or you're starting to think differently to what you were, thinking even just a few months ago?
Yeah, definitely. In some ways, and it's kind of just ramping up, because it's kind of like, oh, this is happening. It's the ball's continually dropping more and more, and yeah, just overall perspective on life, and I don't know, kind of, things that I would stress about, with work or whatever, things that get overwhelm you, kind of thing. It's just like puts it into perspective a little bit, and it's like, oh, none of this shit is really that important. It's just, little trivial things in life that, you let get on top of you, kind of thing. And that's the main difference I've noticed. I'm sure it'll continue to ramp up throughout the year. And then when the little guy's actually here, I'm sure it'll be a whole new thing.
Oh yeah. And are you the first in the band to be having kids?
I am. Yep. So, yes, it'll be, I'll be the guinea pig for everyone in the band to see how it goes. But no, it's, everyone's been super supportive and yeah, like everyone's really stoked for us as well. So that's been a really cool aspect of it, and looking forward to bringing up, a kid in and around, music and bringing them out to some live shows.
When you were sort of a kid, did you have parents sort of getting into music early, or was it more of a case that you found it like a lot of us during sort of more, your teenage years?
My parents were into music quite a bit, but and they sort of got me into music and sort of got me guitar lessons and all that kind of thing. But as it progressed and I showed a lot more interest in it, and I was kind of like insinuating this is what I want to do, then it was kind of like, well, you can't make money doing that, so you gotta get a job, kind of thing. But I definitely had a good upbringing around lots of good music in the house growing up. Definitely planted the seed and created the sort of palette that I have today. That's for sure.
It sounds like it was a conversation that like so many of us had, because we're a similar age, and I just know like there's just so many people around sort of our age that got through into their teens and started really sort of getting into music and picking up guitar and whatever instrument it is, and parents eventually sort of having a conversation, especially when you start to having to pick subjects, thinking about a career and eventually getting a job and things like that. And it's like, well, this music stuff's not going to pay the bills. You need a plan B. You need that backup. And it's like, Mom, Dad, like, get off my back. I want to be fucking Metallica. Like, just this is going to happen. Just let me do it.
Yeah, they had no idea. I had it all planned out when I was 13, and they were clueless. But no, that's definitely was the case for me as well. And because I really had no idea, job wise or school wise, or what I wanted to do. I didn't really have much interests academic wise, and I just knew that if I was going to go, like all my mates were going to uni, I knew that I was going to go to uni, like whatever I was going to do, really wasn't going to interest me, and I was probably going to not do very well at it. So yeah, I just ended up, picking a trade, and I thought, electrician seems like the best trade to go for, so I'll have a crack at that. And that's done me pretty well so far. So out of high school, getting into a trade, and you've just been doing that ever since? Pretty much. Kind of complicated, but pretty much. I used to live on the Gold Coast. I started my apprenticeship there. Then I kind of took a bit of a sabbatical from that, and sort of had a bit of lived a bit of a party life, and just hanging out with mates and going to festivals and things like that. And then I moved back to Adelaide, and was just shit kicking around with a few different jobs, and just thought, should probably finish that apprenticeship. It'll probably do me well in the long run. And then from then I've just been doing it ever since. And it's great. It really helps me fund the music side of thing, which is the real passion sort of thing.
The, you said the word sabbatical. I'm just thinking like just living that party lifestyle. Probably the best and the worst place to do that is the Gold Coast. It's like,
Oh, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's put it this way. There's a reason like why I moved back to Adelaide. Yeah.
Oh, mate. And who just recently moved there? I'm just trying to think. There's somebody, Frosty from Espionage.
Yeah.
So he's moved up there, and I'm looking at like the first few months of them living up there, and it's just like just party time. It just looks sweet. You know, great weather, great views, everything. And it's just like, oh, hopefully there's some stability there, because that's just one reckless part of the world.
Oh, mate, it's off the charts. Like, I got told not long after I moved there that, and I heard it a few times, there's more sharks on the land than there are in the sea. And I guess there's a reason why that saying sort of sticks around. But no, we were actually just up there, played a show at Vinnie's in the Gold Coast in Brizzy. I think, we saw Frosty briefly there. And a bunch of old mates from Brizzy and Gold Coast. It was really cool. But yeah, it's a great place to visit. But for me personally, I definitely prefer living in sleepy old Adelaide. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can only sort of handle about 24 hours there at the most, and then it's insane. Like, I grew up in Brizzy, and so we went and did schoolies on the Gold Coast, and and that sort of 5 or 6 days or whatever it was there was just so, like, even at a because we would be in just finishing year 12 when we were 17, so we weren't even legal to drink, and it was just so exhausting even as a 17-year-old. Like, by the end of the week you were just so over it, and it was just way too much, and we weren't even going to clubs or doing anything. It's just non-stop mayhem there, and it just seems like even going there to play shows or just going other times just during the year, it's always on. Like, the place is always on. There's always something going on. Even during the day when most people are nursing a hangover or passed out somewhere, there's still stuff pumping, and it's just like, it reminds me. And it's funny because you say Sleepy Adelaide, which it is to a respect, but it reminds me of Hindley Street at like 8 a.m. in the morning, where it's just so feral and so out of control. And it's just like, oh man, like I have to really like be, on my toes. Like, this is just, there's so much going on here. I really need to be sort of aware of what's happening around me.
Yeah, totally. I totally get that. Yeah, I guess every city's got that part of town. But Gold Coast seems to have that as it is the town rather than the part of town. But no, it's definitely, I definitely feel the same way. It's like, yeah, you just roll around sort of Cavalav and surfers there in the morning, on a Sunday morning or something. All the dregs of people are still out, still up and wandering around down the beach and trying to nurse the hangover, and all kinds of trouble and mischief going on. It's,
man. Were you living close to Cavill?
Not too far, yeah, like maybe 15 minutes inland from servers. Yeah. So just in the suburbs there, Ashmore, Benoa area. So yeah, it wasn't a far ride to get to the mayhem. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, like anything, I think I think we all probably need a few years or whatever to get some of that stuff out of our system. And I think most of us are lucky enough that you sort of come out the other side and you go, all right, like, some good decisions, some bad decisions, whatever that period is, but you sort of come out of it the other side a little bit better for it, a little bit more sort of self-aware and a bit more mature and things like that. I mean, I certainly had that when I first moved to Sydney, and I moved here when I was 20. And I mean, pretty much the first 10 years, I mean, that was like, it was a decade really. But I mean, for the first 4 or 5 in particular, it was just out of control. It was just, there's no stable job or anything like that. It was just, running the sort of, running the gauntlet of the inner west and Newtown and all that sort of stuff. But also, riding this wave of the whole stuff with music and the band and just like a great time, but definitely not sustainable. Hey, like it just this, and I looked around me and I remember having a moment, and I'm not sure if you had this on the Gold Coast at the time, but I remember looking around and seeing people that I had built friendships with, but had never left like the inner west or never left Newtown. And they were doing the same stuff that I was doing at the time, but they were 10, 15 years older than me. And I'm just looking at them going, I can't do this. Like I can't do that. And I don't want to be that. I need to make some changes quick.
Yeah, totally. And that's like, talking about that period of your life, your 20s, like that's a lot of people's 20s, I guess. They're coming of age. They want to get out there. They want to, have a good time. But like you said, at some point, reality kicks in a little bit, and it's like you start seeing people that are 30, 35, 40 doing living the same life, and you're like, I don't want to be doing that when I'm that age. I mean, at least not as much as what they are, kind of thing. Yeah. But I totally get that, and it's just a lifestyle. It wasn't just that for me. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't just like party all the time. It was just more the lifestyle and just the general people and culture there. It's a lot different. It was a lot different for me coming from Adelaide, because it's a lot of younger town. Like a lot of people that live there aren't like from there. A lot of people just move there, so then there's not a lot of, I guess, or at least to me, it feels like there's not a lot of culture and like things ingrained in the suburbs and friendly people and stuff like that. Which I that's just the way that I saw it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's one of those areas where it's kind of like, I'm just trying to think of an equivalent in like the United States. It'd be like a Miami and like an LA or something like that.
Yeah, I always think of LA, like Hollywood, or some plastic part of LA. Like that's what when I was living there. This must be like what that's like over there, but obviously way bigger. It seemed like it anyway. The beach is there, the weather's nice, the people are plastic. It's great.
And I think it's also that thing where, as you said, like not very many of them are local. They've all come from somewhere else, and it's like they're there to try and do something. They're trying to make it, try to be seen, or whatever that might be. But a lot of it's sort of that disingenuous sort of place. Like there's a lot of fakeness around it, and I'm sure not everyone's like that, but there's definitely it's definitely a magnet for those types of people. And so, especially if you are hanging around, surfers and Cavill Ave and Broad Beach and all those sort of areas along the strip there, you bump into those people that have just set up shop and planted their temporary roots there while they live the excesses and try to be seen and get there. I mean, especially now it'd be even crazier now, because we're in this like next level social media world where it's like all the Instagram sort of stuff and influencers and all this sort of shit, where it's just like, man, you just see it everywhere. It'd be too much for me anyway.
Yeah, totally, man. Like, and I definitely, there's great people there as well. I don't want to come off like saying like I hate every single person from the Gold Coast.
Fuck the Gold Coast.
Yeah. Well, next time we go there, we're gonna get fucking pelted with shit. But no, it was great. Like we just went there recently. It was great. Like everyone was great to hang out with. We had an awesome time. But yeah, it was just I guess maybe the age at the time, formative years growing up. Like you said, like a perfect description. There's a lot of people coming there, hustling, trying to make, go to the promised land, develop, make a career out of something. So yeah, it's definitely the way. But it's a great place to go if you just want to go and party and have a good time for a period of time. That's definitely they have that there.
I think maybe that's something that if Frosty hasn't worked out what he's going to do for just a general income or anything like that, maybe he can set up like a little bit of a party sort of hotel, and just all the metalheads in the Aussie scene can just go up there for weekends at a time, and he can just host them and keep the party going.
That's a great idea. The kick-ons after the gig.
Yeah, that's it. He'd be a great host.
Yeah, man, that's great.
So,
That's awesome.
so with the electrician stuff, now I don't know much about the Sparky world, but Mark in our band's an electrician, and I know that there's like heaps of different types of electricians out there. What do you generally do?
Right, yeah, there is such a varied field. But yeah, like I do a bit of everything really. There a bit of commercial work, so I've been working on a school recently, some bigger houses, and then a lot of just domestic work, like working in people's houses, fixing up stuff for them, or building new houses up. And within the company I work with, they're a great company. They're very supportive, and we do a lot of different varied work. So it's never a dull moment. Doing aircon installs, solar. So yeah, all kinds of stuff. And it's one of those trades where you never, if you think you know it all, you're full of shit, because like there's so much to learn. And like you said, there's so many different fields where you can work, like and very specific fields. Where you can work. Yeah, what does Mark do?
Yeah, now you put me on the spot. I shouldn't have even brought up his name. Yeah, he's going to be so offended because I'm like, I know he does commercial work, but he said like he's been studying as well on the side. So he said he was giving me shit like last year or something like that, because he said I'm technically a scientist now or something like that. And I went, oh right, okay. And then I just sort of glazed over. But it's some sort of I don't know complicated commercial work that he does or whatever. But he's been doing it for who knows, like 15 plus years maybe. Quite a while. But I think sort of large scale stuff that he works on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I probably
there's so many.
Probably should ask
so
him.
many options there. Yeah. I didn't realize he was a Sparky as well. It's crazy. There's so many around the scene that we've come across as like, oh, you're a Sparky. Just play with a random band in Melbourne, and then oh, you're a Sparky as well, right?
They're like the Sparky Alliance. I'm gonna now, while we're talking, I'm just gonna text Mark and actually say, what kind of Sparky are you specifically? And then what he'll do, just this is typical Mark, instead of just answering my question, he'll just say why. It's like, so if he comes back with that,
instead of giving you the specific information that you've asked for,
that's it.
Why?
Just why? Because he knows he's just so suspicious of anything, especially if he gets a random question from me. He knows it's like I'm usually setting him up for something. So he's
there's an angle here.
Yeah, there's something. So we'll wait and see if anything comes through. But do you get punished by like your friends and family because you're a Sparky? It's like, come over and can you fix this for us or whatever? Like, do you get a bit of that?
Oh, not heaps, like a little bit. But like honestly, I'm like more than happy to help and do what I can, because it's not easy to get that stuff done, and they always try and like shove money down my pocket and stuff, and you do the whole like, oh yeah, take it, no, and all that kind of thing. but no, that kind of thing, I'm always you kind of got to do it. It's family, you look after each other, whatnot. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like it swings around roundabouts, right? They'll help out in other ways that I'm deficient in, which is many other things. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm definitely leaning on a lot of experts. I'm sort of that. I'm barely a jack of all trades. It's just like a half-ass of all trades. So I can make it look like I half know what I'm doing, but deep down it's just like no clue. I just have to get other people to help me.
I'm sure it's not that. Like I feel the same way. It's that imposter syndrome of like, I feel like one day someone's going to come out and be like, "You're not meant to be here. You're not doing this right." Like
every day,
you got me. Fuck! Finally, it's taking this long.
just flying under the radar.
Yeah, that's it.
Have you found with sort of coming back to Adelaide and then picking up the apprenticeship again and sort of now having a career in it all? Have you found, because one thing that I'm really interested in with a lot of, especially metal musos, because I think a lot of musos don't often talk about their day-to-day job. We just talk about metal. I mean, we love talking about music and bands and all that sort of stuff. But do you think that you've learnt skills from being an electrician or just working in a particular field in a trade that actually sort of lends a benefit to just band life or being a musician or interacting with other people?
Definitely. Specifically, the one thing that pops to mind as soon as you say that is going to someone's house, you know, when they've got something that's not working, whatever it might be. And it's like, you know, it's one of those things, electricity is one of those things where something's not working and most people are like, it's not working and I don't know why, and it's worrying me. And they just want to be sort of almost comforted or like reassured or just explained, you know, what's happening. So kind of over a long period of time of doing that, just sort of gotten half decent at sort of speaking with people like in that manner, and I guess reading different people different ways. Like some people are a bit more like you're just here to rip me off, and then some people just want to be reassured, or just reading people and dealing with people like that. That's definitely been a skill that I've learned from doing this, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially going to people's places. I think you're everyday person. I think when you walk into somebody's house for the first time, it's sort of like you're just a little bit on edge. Like you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what the people are like, and you're not comfortable because it's not your place. And so there's so many variables. And ultimately, I mean, you know, I guess just doing the type of work that you do, I mean, you're there for a purpose, which makes it a little bit easier. But you definitely have to think on your feet as far as, you know, you're dealing with a different personality every single time you walk through a door.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely been some interesting ones. But also, you know, just like you said, like coming to someone's house and sort of everyone being a bit uncertain as to like, so what happens now? What do you do? And then you just kind of, I feel like you kind of naturally just fall into like, all right, so what I've got to do is I've got to do this, and I'm going to go to the roof, and then I'm going to do this. And then you kind of, I don't know, you just lay out the groundwork for the day for them, and then like, oh, okay. And then it's like they're more comfortable with you being there, or just constantly explaining what's happening and what you're doing to the owner or the client or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely has its challenges, but yeah, it's definitely a good trait that I've learned. And you know, you can apply that in just dealing with anyone in any instance of life, having any kind of conversation, or like, you know, when I'm doing the merch, you know, people come up, ask questions about this size and that size, and you can kind of strike a conversation up a bit easier. Or I find like I can strike a conversation up a little bit easier, and the two things kind of connect. You know, you can kind of explain the situation of the merch in the same kind of way.
Yeah, it's a bit of like sort of being preemptive. Like you can pick up people's cues, like whether it be body language or the tone of their voice or whatever, and you can sort of think a couple steps ahead, so that if people sort of come across as being a little bit unsure or a little bit stressed or a little bit anxious, that you can kind of start to, you know, respond in advance to particular things, just to, you know, add that element of reassurance. Sort of like, as you said, like when you walk into someone's home or, you know, a job site or whatever, and you've got to explain something to somebody, you know, the fact that you're communicating up front saves them having to stress and then ask you questions later on and be a punisher. You can just get in front of it, and then they can walk away and just, you know, be at ease knowing that there's a plan, and they can just they can focus their mind elsewhere. And I totally see that, like merch in particular, but anything in music. Like, I'm sure you've played gigs, we certainly have over the years, where you rock up to a venue in a town, and you might know a couple of the local guys, but you know, most people there, the venue, the booker, you know, the sound guy, house guy, whatever, you don't know these guys from a bar of soap, and they don't want to communicate with you. You're trying to communicate with them. They ultimately will get the job done, but they're so used to just being in autopilot that they don't actually explain anything. So you just end up overcompensating the questions because you're just trying to like get some reassurance that they know what they're doing, and they end up getting narky as a result of that. But it's that whole like, how do you sort of calm a situation so that people just can back off and be relaxed and actually get on with the task at hand, which is, you know, buying or selling merch, or running the show from the front of house, or the booking guy, or the front desk, you know, collecting money, or just being on stage and playing. It's like, it's just, as you said, it sort of lends into not just music, but anywhere really in life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's something that I think just that's the kind of thing you have to learn by doing something like that on a regular basis. Like it's like talking, dealing with strangers, coming into a new venue, new promoter, even like, you know, meeting the other bands, like for the, you know, oh, we're playing with you guys tonight. What band are you in? Oh yeah, no worries. And like, well, sharing gear, you know, do you guys need anything? Oh, can I borrow this? You know, like, and trying to do this whole communal thing that we all do, you know, but like do it without trying to come off like a, you know, a leech or a cunt, or, you know, like we're all in this sort of together. Because I don't know, maybe that's just the way I perceive it with you. It's like, I don't want to be that guy that's hassling, oh, can I borrow your amp for 30 minutes while we play?
Yeah, I think we've all met those people, you know. It's just, and you can see, like, I mean, I'm always hyper aware of like how people, like their body language and how they sort of interact with people, because I know like a lot of people are socially awkward, and I think metal just attracts these people anyway. So
I think it's a prerequisite. If you're in a metal band, you're not allowed to be in a metal band unless you've got something going on there. Like it's that's the way I feel. That's the way I'm anyway, for sure.
Oh mate, but I think you certainly see people that react badly in situations, or they go to ask something, but it's almost like a borderline demand or an expectation that, you know, like, you know, the very stereotypical example of, you know, borrowing gear and things like that. And it's, I think deep down, it's all coming from the right place, but it's just a poor delivery of information or that request to somebody else that usually ends up creating a lot of tension and bad blood between bands. And I mean, I've seen it so many times over the years. I mean, you just have like, you know, a band rocks up and you're meeting them for the first time, and a couple of the guys are cool, and then a couple of the other guys are really distant and they don't want to talk to you or whatever, and you're sort of like, oh, what's up that guy's ass, you know? And then you just realize that they're just completely socially awkward. And for me, this podcast actually is quite funny because I won't mention who they are, but there's been people that I've end up having on the podcast over the years that originally when I met them, I thought, this guy's a cunt. This guy's an absolute cunt. Like, just doesn't want to talk to me or anybody, you know, a bit high and mighty. And then you end up meeting them and you have a conversation. You go, they are so far from that. It's not funny, but they just don't know how to be in these situations and be at ease. They're just so anxious about just being around people that they sort of, you know, curl up in a ball. And it's just so funny. Just, you know, as you get older, I'm sure you're the same. You're a little bit more aware of it, and you can see these things, and you're a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more sort of sympathetic to it and understanding of it. But it's just funny because I think the people that end up working in different careers where it's very people facing, and you have to interact with people quite a bit, you can see those people straight away, and you can see, you know, those people versus the others that, you know, maybe just don't interact much, or, you know, it's not the right job, but like a data entry job is a very, very sort of extreme example. But, you know, somebody that doesn't interact with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, and you certainly see that mix at a metal gig, that's for sure.
Oh, totally, yeah. And, you know, I'm still totally socially awkward, you know, at times. I guess, and it probably comes down to different, like being confident in different times in what you're doing and where you are. But yeah, totally, like get what you're saying with being a bit more understanding of, being a bit more aware of when other people are feeling that way, or you know, they might be coming off as a bit blunt or whatever, but they're not meaning it. It's just like you said, the delivery, and you're like, it's almost like, I just want to give you a hug, man. It's all cool. We're in this together. You know, like,
definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I reckon there's a large percentage of the metal community that's like that.
Yeah, and I think it's I mean, I won't go into that because I'm making a bunch of assumptions as to why that's the case. I think it's a little bit of, you know, there's so many nerds that sort of, and I was certainly a nerd, you know, all sort of getting into metal because there's a bit of an outcast sort of thing that you would go, you know, you'd be gravitated towards. You know, it wasn't the thing that the cool people were into, and so the cool people, you know, at the time tended to have, you know, well, I shouldn't say a personality because they really didn't. They just had some initial surface level communication strengths. But for everybody else who was socially awkward, I think things like metal and other alternative cultures were just such a welcoming place because it just let everybody in. You could be an outcast and as long as you liked the same sort of music, then you were cool. And so as a result, it's such a weird mix of people because you do have the extroverts who just do not hesitate in just interacting with everybody. They're just the life of the party. They keep everything going. And then you got the complete opposite who are just so inward and really struggle, and they're at the back of the room and you wouldn't even notice them. You just see them by face. You don't even know who they are. But that's them and that's all they want. And they rock up to the show and they stand in the corner and then they disappear and that's it. And it's just, it's interesting just to see that, I should use the word, but that spectrum of personalities that metal shows.
It definitely is, man. Like it totally is, and like you hit nail head right there. Like the whole message and of metal or punk or hardcore or whatever is fuck the norm, fuck the system, join us. This is, if you don't belong, then you belong here, kind of thing. So it makes sense that the people who aren't part of the popular clique in school or whatever and cast aside, get into that kind of mentality and join that kind of underground scene. And it is a wide variety of different kind of like you said, on the spectrum of that, extrovert, introvert, for whatever reason didn't get accepted, possibly by the jocks and all the cool kids at school.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that I've started doing these days is, it's been mind you, I was going to say it's been a while since I've been in a gig, but I've just started going back to gigs now, which has been good. But, just trying to make an effort of, when you see, might be someone from a band that you've bumped into a few times over the years, but you haven't really spoken to them because they've seemed a little bit standoffish. And it's not so much to get in their face and make them feel awkward, but just the quick acknowledgement just to say, hey mate, how you doing? And just keep moving. And sometimes that's more than enough in their mind to crack, to break the ice and make them feel a little bit sort of seen and understood. And usually you find that those people start to open up, and it just takes longer for certain people. But years gone by, I would just stay clear of them because I just like, well, clearly they're not emitting signals of wanting to interact with anybody, so I'm not going to make that effort myself. And now it's just sort of a case of, well, I won't get in their face, but I'll just quickly do the drive-by, so to speak, just to make sure that they know that I see them and just saying hello. And then at least it's sort of me opening the door to say, hey, like if you want to chinwag and want to have a beer, like I'm approachable, and sometimes that works, and other times it doesn't. Sometimes it's just they sort of grunt and and sort of look the other way, and you're like, hey, cool, whatever, man, they're all good, and you sort of just get on with it.
Yeah, I tried. That's cool. That's awesome, man. That's that's something because we've just had shows, open up as well, I guess, in the last few months, and so the ones that I've been to. Everything's just been, the vibe has just been amazing. Everyone's been so fucking keen for it, and everything's been so positive, and it's kind of like everyone's opened up, and it's a lot more, a lot less of the shut off kind of little, I don't know, people not wanting to or being too anxious or whatever to talk, and a lot more of like, how fucking cool is this? We're at a gig.
It's such a novelty, isn't it? It's just like,
yeah.
And I think, so on Friday night, just gone, a mate of mine and myself, we went to see Matt Skitz play in Sydney here, and it was the first gig that I've had since the lockdown where we've been able to stand up. Like, we've only just in the last few weeks been allowed to stand up at shows. And It was just so bizarre. It was so weird being in there, and everyone's I'm like I'm waiting to get in trouble by somebody for standing up with holding a beer. And actually it got to the point where, and I mean the night's pretty hazy for me. I definitely indulged, but Yeah, it got pretty psychotic on the floor with everybody sort of moshing. Like, it just seemed more intense than usual. I think people were just letting out all this pent up sort of, frustration and energy that's just been, boiling there for the past 12 months. And it was just this violent pit of just people getting thrown around, and someone just just fell into me, and I just stacked it on my ass. Beer went everywhere. And and it was just like, it was sort of like, welcome back, it's just, this is like, it's not just a case of easing into gig life again and going to shows. It was just like, bam, full frontal attack, and people are ready to really sort of get in there and get messy. And it was cool. Such a great vibe. It was and I noticed it's just in the energy in that room, and just seeing people sort of interacting with each other. I think people, I don't know how long it will last. Hopefully it lasts a while, but I think people are sort of just not taking it for granted at the moment. I think they've realized what's been taken away from them. And so it's a case of like, let's just really enjoy this and appreciate it. And hopefully that continues for fucking hopefully a long time, because bands fucking need these crowds. We need people out there supporting, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, man, I've had a similar thought, because it's been great here, and everywhere we've gone to play so far, like in Vic and Queensland, it's been a similar kind of, just everyone that's been there has been super fucking psyched just to be out, and like most of the shows we've played have sold out, like, and the vibe has just been amazing, and people just frothing for it. And I've been thinking, like, I wonder how long this will continue for, and I'm hoping that, like you said, for a long time, and because it seems like there's going to be a quite a period before international bands are going to be coming through again. So hopefully this period of time will be, perhaps some people that don't go to local shows or didn't go to local shows as much will be exposed to some of the awesome bands that are around the country, because we got a wicked scene here, and it's definitely doesn't get the looking that it deserves, I think.
Yeah, agreed. And I think maybe the place to start with a lot of, especially for bands that want this to work and cross their fingers and hope that the crowds come and stay there. I think bands just need to sort of back it up by going to as many of their mates' shows as well, and just starting to lead the charge by showing people that, it's not just about, I mean, I've always crapped on about this for years, but yes, it's about the music. It is about the show, but it's like, it's a social event. It's the Friday night or the Saturday night, or, if you're lucky, a night during the week, but it's just it's an event. It's something to go to where you're having a night, and it's meant to be a social gathering. It's meant to be, an entertainment sort of thing. It's got to be all these elements together. And I think when you notice, like, if you're somebody that tends to sort of lean towards the couch rather than walking out the door, if you're seeing that a lot of your mates and a lot of people that are in bands are going to shows and having a great time, then you start to think, fuck, I'm starting to miss out. Like, I better make an effort and get off the couch and go out. And I think that's probably going to be the make or break sort of further on into this whole thing, where when things start to go a little bit lukewarm and people start to get over the initial sort of groundswell of novelty and excitement of getting back out and seeing shows, that I think having a lot of the music scene continue to go out and just support each other, I think that's probably going to be the thing that keeps it all moving. But time will tell.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. It's interesting. And one thing that I've been trying to think of and keep in mind with the band is trying to push the shows and, like, do some different stuff as well. Just try to make it a little bit different, a little bit not as run of the mill. Same lineups, same venues, same, so that I feel like that's the kind of thing in the past that has possibly stagnated. Like, oh, we'll just see this run of bands in a different order at this venue in 2 months or in a month's time, and we'll miss this one, kind of thing. But if you kind of mix it up with different lineups and different venues, and maybe do a few different interesting things that are a bit more interactive for the punters, might make it a bit more of an event as well. But it's the eternal challenge, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's like it's a science. I mean, I see so many bands that just go through the same thing over and over again. It's the same mates that they play shows with, the same venue in town or whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, good on them from a consistency point of view and just get out there and playing. But you will get those punters who will go, well, I can see them, this Friday night, or I can see them the following week or in a month's time or whatever. And it's not going to be the end of the world if I miss out. And as you said, like even just changing the venue or mixing up the lineups a little bit is sometimes more than enough just to keep things fresh. But I think a lot of bands need to be thinking about how do you just make the entire night appealing from the time that the doors open until the very last band finishes up, or even until the doors close and you get kicked out at the end of the night. Really, I mean, it's the entire night, and how do you just make it appealing? And it's about not just trying to draw in the people that just constantly support your band. It's all the casual music fans, the casual drinkers, or the people that just might not normally go out to shows, religiously, but they see something appealing and it's a fun night. Then that's going to get the people out. And so I think bands need to think a little bit more sort of on that level. And it makes just such a difference. I mean, that's why nightclubs go so well. I mean, they always make it an event. They make it like the place to be. It's not just like this DJ's playing. It's like people don't care about the DJ's just a bonus if you're into that sort of stuff. But it's just a case of all the people that I know are going to be there, and it's going to be a fun night, and they might do some things that are unique or whatever. But it's a social catch up. It's meant to be a big thing, and if you miss out, then fuck, you miss out.
Yeah, the FOMO. The FOMO is real amongst the people, and like it is real, because if you make it a fun event, and everyone is there that you want to hang out with, then you will miss out, and it will suck, because if you're there, it'll be an awesome time. So, no, I definitely feel that. It's just like, for us, it's not. I think we're going to consciously try and not play too much locally, because that's another trap you can fall into, especially struggling to really travel everywhere, really limited with where we can go. So I guess the natural pullback would be, let's just play more here, but I don't think that's a good idea either, because then you want to play consistently enough where people will continue to come and see you, but then also if you're playing every other weekend, then like we're saying, I'll just catch them next weekend, and then it thins out and that same problem happens. So trying to make each one an event and unmissable, like you said, will be the go. And we've got there's a gig coming up at the end of July, which can't announce yet, but it's going to be really fucking cool. Good friend of ours is putting it on. It's going to be a bit of a festival event, and the venue is really cool. And I think once it's announced, there'll be a lot of people in Adelaide that will be frothing to get there. Let's put it that way.
Obviously, maybe just the sort of casual listener or someone who's not sort of completely deep in the metal scene probably wouldn't be able to connect the dots. But I think you narrowed it down just by those little clues about who it is and potentially what venue it is. And I mean, not necessarily knowing what the festival is going to be, but look, if it's who I think it is, and it's a festival and it's in Adelaide, and just taking a punt at what the venue is, then it'll no doubt be awesome. So it's good. Yeah, for sure. I was trying to be really careful there, because if I gave too much away, then I would probably be hung, drawn, and quartered in the middle of Hindley Street. Oh, well, that's all right. Most people probably wouldn't be able to connect the dots. There'll just be a few musos listening and going, "Oh yeah, I know."
Yeah.
But I mean, well, actually, I was going to go in two different directions, but I'll just stick with what I was going to ask before, because I want to talk a little bit about Adelaide and just shows and things like that. But for you guys, I mean, you mentioned before about starting to play some shows interstate, and I mean, I was so impressed when you guys announced those shows and willing to to hop on a plane and go and travel and go and play these shows interstate. What was the feeling like in the band when this opportunity came up to go and play interstate, when things have just been so volatile as far as borders getting closed, outbreaks happening, all this sort of stuff? Did you guys just jump at it, or was there a little bit of sort of polite debate within the group to sort of say, weigh up the pros and cons about whether this is a good idea or not?
Definitely, and that had been happening for a long time. Because like going all the way back to like the album got released at the start of last year, and we had like heaps of touring plans in the works, which it was a big bum out, that's for sure. Put it that way. We're going to get to hopefully go to Europe and do a heap of stuff there, but so all through the year we're kind of like going, how do we tackle this now? What's the best way to do it? Obviously for a long time shows weren't possible at all, and then when they opened up, it was a risk, and some people were more gung ho, just giving it a go, and some people were a bit more like sit and wait. And we kind of waited for a bit, and then after a while, it was like at some point, because the whole conversation came on of when shows do open up, we actually were talking about like what we were just talking about, that they're going to be really fucking off the chain because everyone's going to be frothing for live shows. But if you wait too long and you wait for the announcement to happen, then it's too late because you've missed it takes a month or 2 or 3 to book a show.
Right.
So you kind of got to take a punt and go for it. So then at some point we were like, let's just go for it and see what happens. And we planned many tours towards the end of last year and the start of the year, and they got rearranged and changed and cancelled and things like that. But these ones came along and it was like, let's just do it and give it a crack. And worst thing that happens is it gets cancelled, and most flights, they give you credit now. So all we're doing really is just delaying the flight that we're going to be taking eventually to play a show. So, but we were lucky enough that, I think, just thinking now, I don't lie, but every show we didn't really have any problems with anything getting cancelled. Or I will say though, the last day in Queensland, so we played the Gold Coast on the Friday, and then we went to Brisbane, played Brisbane on the Saturday, and then we woke up on the morning in the Saturday a bit hungover, went to have breakfast somewhere, and on a place we went, they had the telly on the local news, and they were talking about COVID outbreak in Brisbane, and we were like, and we all just kind of were listening. We all heard it, and we were all just sitting there not saying anything, and it was kind of just like this, like everyone's like, we're not talking about this. Like we're here now, so like let's just play the gig, try and get home, see what happens.
Man, so lucky because Brisbane, in particular, I mean, they had, I can't remember when their lockdowns were, but they've had a couple of like just 3-4 day sort of little semi lockdowns. But I mean that's enough to throw a lot of shit out of whack, big time. I mean, even just the quarantine stuff and just, it's just, there's so many things. But I mean, I think you guys probably took the right approach. It's sort of a case, well, we can't do anything right now, so let's just keep the plan and then just cross our fingers and hope the next day when we're getting out of there, it's not going to be any issues. Yeah,
exactly. That was like, let's just try and stay positive, get this food and coffee enough because we need it, and get to the gig and have a good show, and then see what happens after that. And we were lucky, like we got back and we got let in and it was good. And then actually it's funny because we did that, we came back and then went back to work, did the whole thing, and then recently we shot a video and we're doing it on a Sunday, and we like towards the end of the shoot or halfway through the shoot or something, and it was like maybe 5:30 in the Arvo here, and we were all there obviously, and we all got instantaneous message at the same time from SA Gov saying, you've recently travelled to Queensland, you need to self-isolate immediately and get a COVID test, and get a COVID test and then get it on the 5th day and then the 13th day, or whatever the thing was.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we snuck back in the nick of time.
I mean, just an absolute pain in the ass, and it can definitely be a complete stress out. But I mean, they do make great stories. I mean, it's kind of cool that it sort of all happens the way that it did. But man, like, I mean, definitely give you guys credit, because I think, I mean, even for us, for us in Lord, I mean, we sort of looked at this year and just thought, you know what, like we're just not going to bother this year. I mean, we've got other things we can do, and we'll just clean up some stuff in the back end and just work on some stuff here and there, and just see what other bands do. And I think part of it was it's probably just a little bit harder for us just to get started and get cracking. There's a lot of prep work and things like that. But I think there, I mean, at least from my end, there's definitely a real sort of hesitation of committing to something mentally and then seeing it all sort of implode when these unpredictable moments, pop up, and, either before you leave and then you have to cancel and rearrange stuff, or you're stuck somewhere and something happens. And I think, for us, we definitely took the conservative path. And when I look at bands like yourself who are just like, you know what, let's give it a shot. I mean, just props to you guys. And it's cool when it works as well. And you guys managed to dodge a few bullets there.
Cheers, man. Yeah, I mean, we definitely got lucky with it, and I mean, we've got plans to tour. We've got a few more different legs of tours that we want to do for the rest of the year for the album, and then because we've got some more releases that we want to be putting out to tour on as well. So we'll see how those go, and hopefully, touch wood, we're as lucky with those ones. But yeah, hopefully from here on out, it's going to be not as bad with the whole vaccines rolling out and everything. But I mean, the approach you guys took is obviously going well for you at the moment. With congrats on the whole ARIA charting and everything like that. That's pretty awesome, man. Like, couldn't be happier for you.
Oh, thanks, mate. That was, I mean, that wasn't planned at all. Like, it was just, it's funny because, I mean, we definitely took the conservative approach, and we just thought, and the whole point of doing this covers thing was, I mean, the original thought of it was a bit of a throwaway interim release just to keep the thing moving and just go, oh, well, it'll keep like this small group of people who, always buy our stuff happy, and there's something out there, and it'll be a little bit of fun and whatever. And then, it kind of just got a life of its own. And funnily enough, like just talking about shows, I mean, in our band, I don't think we're going to change the plan for the year, but, suddenly everyone's a little bit more open-minded about things. And they're like, oh, maybe we could do things. Maybe we could like work on a few different things when initially it was going to be a write-off for this year. And it's just funny to see how things can quickly change. So, I mean, never say never, but yeah, it certainly was it was a bit of a blindside sort of thing that happened to us. I mean, I sort of got a bit of a whiff sort of getting closer towards release date, that I thought, oh, maybe this could be a thing. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, thanks, man. It's been a bit of a wild ride, and I think I still feel like I'm in the middle of it at the moment. So I think I'm hoping I can get a few more weeks of this spotlight, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Like, it's great to see. Anytime anything like that happens with anything remotely metal is awesome. And way to make, like you said, you didn't plan it, but you put the album out in this time of COVID, and it's what a way to, life gives you lemons. You make ARIA charting albums. Like, it's awesome.
ARIA flavored lemonade. Yeah. And I think, I've always, I think, sort of going back to what we were saying before about like just making an effort with people, in our scene, in our metal scene, in our music scene. In the last few years, I've really started to look more outward than inward, and I'm trying to find ways to lift everybody up, and I sort of look at, obviously it's great for us, it's really good for what we've been doing, but I look at it and go, man, this is so cool. Like, there's a metal band, like, and yes, there's popular metal bands out there playing different types of metal, but just our type of metal, just a bit of thrash, bit of old school heavy metal, that kind of stuff, and that's in the charts. And I just think, that can only be good for other bands. And for me, I've sort of, in hindsight, sort of looking back, even with the last album and then this one, sort of just piecing it together and just sort of seeing how realistic it is for many other bands to basically do exactly what we've done, not so much with a covers album, but to get into the charts, and it's definitely possible. And I just hope that, even just this latest thing for us is hopefully going to open a few more doors to other bands that can that can create some momentum out of it and take advantage of it. So we'll see. But I'm always looking to see what I can do to sort of prop other bands up, and I just think more and more of us should be doing that for each other. It's just there's more than enough opportunities out there. It's just a case of being sort of inclusive and open to sharing secrets and insights and ideas and opportunities and stuff like that. And I think it just makes such a massive difference.
Yeah, totally, man. Like, we're all in this together, kind of thing, and I think it's awesome. Like, we've had a heap of people help us with Shatterbrain and other bands throughout the years, and we try and do the same as well. And young bands coming through. It's like, I remember being that young guy and being, super excited and super green, and like, that's so cool. Like, that album doing so well with you guys, and like, I was just thinking about it the other day. Like, I wonder how many people will check that out, and then it'll like send them down a rabbit hole of, we'll check out your original stuff and then check out similar artists, and then maybe get turned on to a type of music which they might not have listened to. And it's just awesome. Like, and hopefully we get more and more of that coming out, over this period.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I mean, we saw it years ago when we did that Kylie Minogue cover, and I thought at the time it was, I mean, definitely a laugh, a bit of a novelty for us, and just, I think initially it was just a bit of a throwaway sort of gag that we did, that we managed to make the song sound good. I mean, the original song was good, but it was just, obviously the way it was performed wasn't as appealing. But I just thought I treat covers sometimes like candy, like lollies and stuff like that. Like, they can be really exciting and enjoyable, but they're not sustainable. Like, and you get over them really quickly because you just usually indulge and go too hard on them. And so I always expected for us that cover songs were something that you'll attract a lot of people in the instant, but then you lose the majority of them because they're only there for the novelty aspect of it. They're not there to sort of learn more and discover more. But with that Kylie one, I mean, we were proven so wrong with that, because there's still people today that go, we discovered you guys because of that Kylie cover, and then dug into the back catalogue and then discovered, like, oh wow, there's a metal band in Australia. I'm like, are you fucking joking? Like, there is an entire scene here of bands. It's insane. But even now, like, it's just a case, I'm starting to see it now with this next wave of people coming through, and listening to some of the stuff that we did this time around, and it's hilarious. Like, part of me, like, my knee-jerk reaction is sort of like, oh, fuck you. I can't believe you're only just discovering, heavy music in Australia now. Like, why now? And, some of these people are like in their 40s, older, and probably grew up with the old American stuff and European stuff, but didn't really pay attention to the local scene. And they're sort of going, oh my God, there's so many bands that are around. And but then I quickly remind myself that that's actually really fucking exciting, because when we think that we've exhausted it so much here in Australia, because we always say, oh, it's a small population, it's a small scene, blah, blah, blah. And you go, man, we still got fucking whatever it is at the moment, 26 million people. Even if we've got a tiny percentage of that, that's a gigantic scene. And I think there's more than enough people out there that can appreciate heavy music. It's just a case of connecting with them and trying to find ways to bring them in, to be a magnet. And I think I'm starting to see that the cover song thing is one of many ways that you can do it. So I'm hoping that we have some success, and it does lead into discovering a world of great music from so many different bands in this country. It's just it's nicest to see in the last few years. I guess just with the connectivity of the internet and bands suddenly, well, I shouldn't say suddenly, but I think in more recent times getting more savvy with making an effort to connect with people and engage and do a little bit more PR and marketing and promoting themselves, that more and more people are discovering these great bands. So, we'll see what happens. But it's been pretty ridiculous the last couple of weeks. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, it's killer. It's killer. Like, and we'll continue to be doing the band thing no matter. We love doing it no matter what. So we keep putting it out there to the people, but no matter how many people we get or shows or whatever, like, anything to do with that. But one thing that always stuck with me was going to these Soundwave festivals and seeing, like, 30,000 people rock up and check out all these metal and hardcore bands, and I always just think like, where are 10% of these people at local shows?
Yeah, and just to look around and see, like, it's not just them rocking up out of curiosity and not really knowing the bands. I mean, these are hardcore fans, and you're looking at the band t-shirts that they're wearing, and these people are listening to the same music we are, and it's not a case that they're only listening to mainstream or whatever. I mean, you're seeing some pretty niche stuff that's being worn by these music fans in the thousands, and you're just sort of looking around. Yeah, I always do it because I just think, man, I'm seeing opportunity walk by me all the time.
I know. That's what I would think. Yeah, like that's exactly what I would think. Like, I feel like that some higher up person who's pulling the strings, I don't know how, the Illuminati of the industry, they're missing an opportunity here, because there's a hell of a lot of people that are into this type of music, and we have a lot of good heavy bands in this country. I just think there's at the ground level, going from the ground level of where playing shows and doing that up to these people's ears, there's a big gap. And I think they just are not aware of most Australian metal and hardcore and punk bands. I guess we don't have much, we traditionally haven't had all that much media, but all these great podcasts like yourself and radio shows are more and more picking up. So yeah, hopefully it builds and builds from there. But it would always baffle me, like seeing all these people and just being like, these people are all into the same music we're into.
Yeah, it would get me excited because I'm like, there's opportunity, like there is opportunity, but at the same time, I'm just like, it's like it's really complex, equation or this puzzle, and you're just looking at it going, it's literally right there, but I can't, like, it's almost like you're invisible, like you're just screaming and they're just not even noticing that you're there, and you're just trying to work out, how the hell do I break through this and I get their attention and maintain it. And I mean, the big thing for me was always like when bands like Maiden or Priest would come out, and I'm just looking at it going, like, if we got to get onto that stage and play, I mean, shit, we might win over like 1% of that audience, and that would be absolutely incredible. And I always had the, with the old marketing hat or the promotion hat on, always thinking about, oh man, if I could print up like, 10,000, CDs, like, just with a couple of songs on there and hand them out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, all right, 10,000 CDs, how much does that cost? Okay, no, can't afford that one. All right. What else can we do? And just constantly just trying to think of ways to get in front of people's faces and just go, hey, like, there's songs that we play that sound a little bit like Iron Maiden, and you might like us. There's a high chance that you might like a couple of our songs, and but I think for me, sort of looking at it, with a bit of, a sort of positive sort of lens over it, is to know that it sort of drives me anyway, to constantly, try and find ways to reinvent what we're doing and just constantly be out there engaged. And I think you guys do a really good job with a lot of this stuff, where, like, I see it in your video clips in particular, and I think the way that you guys kind of, put yourselves out there is that you can see the personality in the band. And I think that's probably one thing that has done a disservice for a lot of Aussie bands over the years, is like that whole, we're too modest for our own good, and we're too sort of we're too much of, like, we're just normies, like we're the same guys at the bar as we are on stage, and there's a kind of a nice, like, thing around that. It's like, it's a really sort of proud thing to be, like, you don't want to be this egomaniac that gets on stage and you can't, relate to anybody. But I think that's why so many bands in Europe or the US do so well, is because they're larger than life on stage, and I think that captivates people, and there's that personality and that stuff there that draws people in and gets them the publicity and the attention. And I think Aussie bands have sort of, I think sometimes we've just been a little bit too modest for our own good. So it's good to see, like yourselves, when you do a video clip and you take the piss and you have some fun, and you can back it up with good music as well. So people sort of look at it and go, these guys are cool, this is fun, I'm enjoying it. And also, like, yeah, the music's like, it's speaking for itself. So I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, man. Cheers for that. It's funny you should mention that, because that's like something we've definitely specifically spoken about before. Like it's something I've always really liked about and connected with about certain bands, when you can really see each personality of the members of the band, and you relate to them a bit more, rather than just, like 4 or 5 dudes standing there with their arms crossed in a photo or something like that. And that's kind of what we did speak about that a little bit, specifically because we have so many over the top personalities in different ways in the band. So it's like, I feel like every jam and everything we do is just like a laugh-a-thon. And I feel like people need to get involved in this, because this is just like, gold. But the old, Pantera home videos and all that kind of thing, I guess they were kind of doing that kind of thing, showing what's happening in the background and what each member was like. And heaps of bands have done that over the years. And I've always really been a big fan of that. And, even I guess locally, like King Parrot do that a little bit as well with their members and their videos that they do. And it's a bit different, at least, there's some comedy in there, and there's some, insight into what each member's like a little bit, or at least how they portray themselves in the videos. So, I feel like that draws people in a little bit. At least it did with me and a lot of bands. And it's a bit of a point of difference, So we definitely try and do that a little bit. I think we'll continue to do similar things like that with our videos. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's such a important thing to do, where I mean you can just be the band that does the traditional things of record the song or the EP or the album, put it out, do your shows, get up on stage, be the heavy metal band, the stereotypical metal band, get off, flog a couple of CDs and a t-shirt, and you might do all right, but I think the bands that take a bit of a risk, and just try things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like humor or anything like that, but just trying to do something different from a visual point of view or a sound point of view or personality, like focusing in on each of the people in the band or whatever it is. It's just, or even like I'm coming back to this fucking example again, but like before, like talking about making the effort to go and just quickly acknowledge someone in the room, who might be a little bit sort of standoffish or whatever. It's kind of like that as a band, like making the effort to connect with people instead of just putting something out and expecting people to listen to it. It's sort of like it's creating that two-way street where you want to sort of interact and acknowledge the person who is making half an effort to acknowledge you. And the more that you sort of go back and forth, the stronger it gets. And the more that people can see that's on the outside, then they want to be a part of it. It's that FOMO thing you said earlier. It's people see that there's a cool little community that's happening. There's a cool group of cool people, and they're like, I want to be in the cool group, and that was definitely Pantera for sure. Like I remember, those 3 videos were just like, I mean, for a lot of us, it was like the Bible of metal. Like it was just like, and you just wanted to be on the road with them. They were the cool dudes, and it was not just the 4 guys in the band. It was their entire road crew. Like everyone was a personality. Everyone had inside jokes, the most ridiculous stuff. And it was just so cool because you got to see this little inner circle of people, this little club of people, and they had adventures together. And I just, for me as a kid, like getting into metal, I just thought, oh man, that's what I want. I want to have like cool friends. I mean, that cool group definitely wasn't sustainable at all, but it looked cool. And so I think bands like, it's a two-way street. And so it's like, how can you bring more and more people into the band, not literally into the band playing instruments, but into the band as far as a community? You're building a community of people. And I think the more people that sort of jump on board, then it sort of spreads like, wildfire, so to speak. It's so, it's, I mean, but I love this sort of stuff. I mean, it's just like, it's the trial and error of trying to, a bit of human psychology and trying to see what works and what doesn't, getting people's attention and trying to, fight for attention with everybody else that's trying to do the same thing as well. And I mean, it's like a little experiment every day, just trying to see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, totally, man. And it's always ongoing and never predictable. Yeah, it's crazy, and I think that you can take the same logic and apply it to like playing live. Like if you're watching a band and they're like killing it, and the music's good, and they look like they're having a fucking awesome time, then you're gonna naturally want to fucking get involved with that and have a good time because this music rips and these guys are having a great time, and I want to get involved with that and have a great time as well. And people sort of draw in and you can kind of bring it to life a little bit, that idea to life a little bit, and just acknowledging people that are giving it a bit in the crowd. Those little things I think are important. I love that when going to see a band. And definitely I leave the show feeling a lot more connected to that band and wanting to just get way more into it.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, I get like, I mean, I just remember, big shows, international bands, and like, someone like the guitarist sort of looks out. I mean, I'm just trying to think of one off the top of my head, like Anthrax years ago. I was in Brisbane, living in Brisbane, and I saw them play with, I don't know. Actually, it might have been Mortal Sin. And sort of seeing Scott Ian on stage, and he's thrashing out, and he just looks out and sort of just does a nod in my direction. He probably wasn't even looking at me. I mean, there's that many people in the room, but I was like, squealing like a girl. I mean, the other one I always tell is like seeing Iron Maiden with a mate of mine, and Adrian Smith looks out and gives the nod, and it just looked like he was looking straight at us, and we literally like squealed like schoolgirls. We couldn't believe it. But I mean, for me, like I feed off that kind of stuff myself, and like even if I'm going to a local gig, I get disappointed when my mates are on stage and I'm standing there in front of them and I'm trying to get their attention. They just don't. I mean, they're in their own world. I totally get it. And every once in a while when they'll see me and they give me a nod, I'm like, I get that same rush. I'm like, yeah, they saw me, even though I just spoke to them like 5 minutes earlier, or I'll speak to them straight after. It doesn't matter. It's like that weird dynamic of being on stage, and when that doesn't happen, I'm like, oh, like, mate, like, come on, I'm here. Like, give me a little nod. And and I kind of try to remember that when I get on stage and play, because I think that's the perspective you need. Like, you just need to think about what do I like? Like when I go and see bands, or when I've discovered bands, I become obsessed and I love particular personalities or albums or whatever. I mean, what are the elements? What are the things that have got me totally obsessed and pumped up over? And then trying to work out what are those things that you can apply into your own band, and it can make such a massive difference.
Yeah, totally. And I've had those same things, like with seeing bands and getting a lock of the eyes and a nod, or the mouth something to you, or like you can see that they're enjoying it or whatever, and it's like you just melt inside a little bit. And you're like, I can die now. But yeah, it's cool. Like for me, it's like like when I'm playing, at least it's like it feels great, and whenever I see someone, the thing I'm thinking is like, how fucking awesome is this? Like, how cool is this? I feel like we're like, because we're all just fans of metal, and it's like when there's a crowd pumping and it's going off, and whether you're on the stage or in the crowd, it's just like they're right there usually, and you're just like, this is fucking awesome. And that's what that interaction is to me, is like, how fucking cool is this? This is going off. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing beats that feeling.
Yeah. And it's just that wanting to connect with people and feeling part of something, something bigger than just yourself. This community, there's this, genre of music or this lifestyle or whatever it might be for you, but it's bigger than just you, and it involves other people. And I think that's that whole, I think everyone sort of needs it to an extent. I mean, to different levels depending on your personality type, but I think everybody wants to be a part of something to some degree, and I think that's why it's so infectious. And I think sometimes it's just the case that we either take it for granted, or we just don't verbalize it enough, where we sort of it's conscious, it's just a subconscious thing. We feel good, every once in a while, and we don't actually sort of connect the dots and try and think about why we feel good in a particular moment. And that could be the secret sources to what could actually break a band and really sort of excel with building a decent fan base and having some success. So some food for thought. It'll certainly when I get off the call to you, I've got some other stuff I've got to do, Lord stuff, and that's just pumping me up now just to get stuck into that. So.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So with Shatterbrain, I know that you sort of alluded to some stuff that's coming up in the future, and it might be a little bit too early to start sort of announcing any of this kind of stuff. But obviously, Pitchfork Justice has been out now for a year, and I mean, fucking top album, well done. It's great, and it's just, I mean, like a lot of bands that have released music over the past 12 months or 18 months, absolute tragedy that you can't sort of give it its legs that it really deserves. But it's awesome that you guys are starting to get back out and play a few shows. So I'll definitely link to the album, and people can check that out and some of the videos you guys have done. And when that video that you guys just filmed recently eventually comes out, and then you got some other things to announce, I'll update the show notes as well, and people can have a squiz.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And I meant to mention earlier, but I forgot all about it, and then I was texting him back and forth. But I asked Mark that question before, and so
did he reply with why?
Yeah, yep. So here's the text trail. So it's like, what kind of Sparky are you specifically? And he replies back, why? What are you up to? And I just write, just answer. And he goes, I'm not just one kind of electrician. I'm many things. Tell me why, and I'll answer you properly. And then I just go, and I didn't want to say that I'm on a podcast because he would fucking definitely not tell me anything. But he goes, lol, I'm talking to an electrician and wanted to tell them what you do. Fucking difficult cunt, haha. So now he's come back and he's saying, should have said that to begin with. For all I know, you're working on Series 4 Mork Crazy Cards. So now he's giving me a proper answer after all that. Electrical contractor's license, trained in domestic, commercial and industrial. Communications license, trained in structured data cabling and fiber optics. So there you go, whatever that fucking means. Oh. So it sounds like he does a few things.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's awesome. I like how you completely predicted what his reply would be.
I mean,
that's great.
There's an element of trust that we have in each other. Like we're best mates, but at the same time, we never let our guard down. It's like, especially when, like, it's not often that I'll ask him something out of the blue, without some context around it. So when I'm basically, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from him. So it's he should be cautious. He should be concerned.
yeah. He knows you're up to something.
He doesn't even know half the things that I've got planned that are sitting around me in my room here. I've got boxes of things that he has not even seen yet. That'll eventually see the light of day. But anyway, I've got to drip feed these things out, and purely it's for my own entertainment purposes. It's not really for anybody else. So just the things that I spend money on is just, oh man, fuck it hell. Anyway,
that's the main thing.
That's it.
I look forward to seeing it.
Oh mate, you will. You definitely will. Fuck it hell. But I mean, going back to some of the stuff we said before, I mean, this is, I do it for a thrill for myself. It's just to amuse myself, but it is something that's helped us quite a bit over the years, where people, get a laugh out of it and see the personality and the dynamics between, the two of us or the three of us in different respects, where we have a bit of a laugh and take the piss out of each other and do this kind of stuff online or in person, and people gravitate towards it. It kind of creates a little bit of a community where people want to be part of the joke or enjoy it, and I think that sort of helps the band have its own personality, where you're not just relying on the music or the album or the merch and things like that. You got to have all this extra stuff in between that sort of gives it that identity.
Absolutely, man. There's nothing like a good piss take between friends, and the more people that want to get involved, the merrier. I think that's for sure.
Definitely. Well, I look forward to your next video. I did see some pictures where you guys were taking photos on the day, and fuck me, I can't wait to see what the hell you guys have filmed, because it just it appears to be ridiculous, but I guess time will tell.
It is 100% ridiculous. But yeah, well, there will be some. I think there may be a few feathers ruffled, but you got to crack a few eggs to make a Egg McMuffin or whatever the saying is.
Hey, go and check out the debut album from Shatterbrain called Pitchfork Justice over at shatterbrainmetal.com or shatterbrainmetal.bandcamp.com. Of course, I'll have everything in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. I'll have all the social media handles. I'll have the main website. I'll have Bandcamp. I'll have Spotify, Apple Music. I'll have the YouTube videos embedded in the show notes over at andysocial.net. The lot, you dog. I'll have the lot over there. Go and check it all out and support a great band doing great things. And I forgot to mention in the intro as well that Matt's not the first person from Shatterbrain who's been on the podcast. So if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, you would have recalled that Ryan Quarrington, drummer from Shatterbrain, has also been on the podcast twice. We had an epic conversation last year that went for about 3 hours, so we decided to split it in half and do 2 episodes. So go back and have a listen to those episodes with Ryan, just a top chat. But those guys are absolute legends. They are veterans in the Adelaide metal scene and really in the Australian metal scene now. They got some mileage under them and they're doing quality metal. So if you haven't heard them yet, definitely go and check them out. They're great guys doing great things. Before I wrap it up, let's talk a little bit about Patreon, shall we? Yes, patreon.com/AndyDowling. Must say, it is the best way to support me and the podcast. And one of my goals for this year is to get as many $1 supporters as possible. So jump on over, $1 a month, set and forget. You won't even notice it. And if you do want to get some free shit, I usually do first dibs on giveaways, so I get some free shit in the mail. I'll usually take a photo and chuck it up in the Patreon feed and say who wants what, and sometimes some people are keen, and I'll send that out to them in the post for nothing because I'm a nice bloody guy and these people are nice to me. And I also got a Patreon podcast as well that comes out every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Sydney time. And that's a mixture of all sorts of shit. A bit of karaoke, a bit of story time. I've got a segment called Planes, Trains and Animobiles. I've got some 90s television commercials just to break it all up, you know. And I go through Release Radar each week as well. So we play some music, see what's happening. Usually get to play a few Aussie metal bands in the show. I get to talk about what I'm currently reading and watching and just anything weird and just anything I discover usually gets dumped into Patreon each week. So it's a great way to I don't know, just get slightly entertained, slightly amused from your mate Andy each and every week. So go and check all of that out over at patreon.com/AndyDowling. And I must say, a really, really big thank you to my top tier supporters. These guys are in my top 2 tiers over at Patreon. I don't expect these guys to be spending this kind of money per month, but they do, and it's incredibly humbling. And it's the ultimate accountability piece. I mean, it motivates me, but it definitely is guilt money, and it keeps me on the straight and narrow. So these people are absolute legends. In particular, thank you very much to Andrew from Perth, Mick G from Sydney, Ash from Deniliquin, Dan from Dapto, Rod from Rayleigh in North Carolina, Patrick from Canberra, Liam from Brisbane, Chris from Sydney, Brendo from Leeton, Tim from Canberra, James from Brisbane, Christian from Canberra, Steve from the Gold Coast, and Andrew from Sydney. Thank you very much, guys. These people are part of the wider community of just absolute top people, top legends, top just bloody good people who support me and the podcast. And as I always say, it's the reason why Andy Social exists this year in 2021. I think just over the past 12 months, I think a lot of us have had worlds just turned upside down and lots of different things happen. And there's certainly been moments along the way where I could have easily just gone, you know what, I can justify putting this on ice for the time being. But I've got this community of people just backing me, believing in their mate Andy and his little podcast. So it is really the reason why this podcast still exists, and I'm so thankful for it because I would be a very regretful boy if I had actually thrown in the towel or paused the podcast. So I'm glad that I'm still chugging away, and it is because of the people over at Patreon. So go and check it all out, patreon.com/AndyDowling. Now, next episode, no freaking idea. No idea. I'm recording this in advance, so who knows? Who knows? Stay tuned. We'll all be surprised. So until next episode, folks, take care and ta-ta.